If Sarah Palin, whose website put and today scrubbed bullseye targets on 20 representatives, including Gabby Giffords, does not repudiate her own part, however tangential, in amplifying violence and violent imagery in American politics, she must be dismissed from politics.
Now, many observers have already reduced this tragedy to simple questions of whether overheated rhetoric is to blame or one partisan group or another.
That ugly hate talk from Michelle Bachmann and Sarah Palin is around the world within seconds. It never was in colonial times. So get off of that.
If I read this to you and didn't tell you that it was an FBI agent describing what Americans had done to prisoners in their control, you would most certainly believe this must have happened by Nazis, Soviets in their gulags, or some mad regime, Pol Pot or others, that had no concern for human beings. Sadly, that's not the case. This was the action of Americans, you know.
And there is no reason, Bob, that young American soldiers need to be going into the homes of Iraqis in the dead of night, terrorizing kids and children, women, breaking sort of the customs of the historical customs, religious customs, whether you like it or not. Yeah.
When you say cold blood, Congressman, a lot of people think you're basically saying you got some civilians sitting in a room or out in the field and they're executed just on purpose. Exactly what happened. Not because the Marines are scared or anybody's scared, or the soldiers are scared.
This was not an action. This was not. At first, they tried to say it was an IED. There was no IED involved in this. This was troops who went in. They were so stressed out, they went into houses and killed children, women, and children.
And terrorists who have murdered U.S. citizens, and the approach of your Department of Justice is they have the same rights as Charles Manson.
In the sense that a murderer has the right to go before a jury, get the acts that he's charged with proven beyond a reasonable doubt? Yes.
So therefore Osama bin Laden, in your opinion, has the same rights as Charles Manson?
In some ways, I think they're comparable people in some ways. There are a variety of reasons why I think people have taken these actions. It's hard. One, I think you have to look at each individual case. I mean, we're in the process now of talking to Mr. Shahzad to try to understand what it is that drove him to take the action he took.
But radical Islam could have been one of the reasons?
There are a variety of reasons why people...
But was radical Islam one of them?
There are a variety of reasons why people do these things. Some of them are potentially religious-based.
Okay, but all I'm asking is if you think among those variety of reasons, radical Islam might have been one of the reasons that the individuals took the steps that they did.
We see, say, radical Islam. I mean, I think those people who espouse a version of Islam that is not...
Are you uncomfortable attributing any of their actions to radical Islam? It sounds like...
No, I don't want to say anything negative about a religion that is not appropriate.
I'm not talking about a religion.
Like
I'm talking about radical Islam. I'm not talking about the general religion.
Right, and I'm saying that a person like Anwar al-Awlaki, for instance, who has a version of Islam that is not consistent with the teachings of it, and who espouses a radical version.
Could radical Islam have motivated these individuals to take the steps that they did?
I certainly think that it's possible that people who espouse a radical version of Islam have had an ability to have an impact on people like Mr. Shahzad.
Okay, and could it have been the case in one of these three instances?
Could that have been the case?
Yeah. Could one of these three individuals have been incited by radical Islam? Apparently you feel that they could have been.
Now I believe, myself, that the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and you have to make your own decision as to what the President knows, that this war is lost.
We can send 15,000 more troops, 20,000 more troops, 30,000 more troops. I don't know any expert on the region or any military officer that I've spoken to privately that believes that that is going to make a substantial difference.
Every once in a while, you're going to get out of the streets and get a little bloody when necessary. Every once in a while, you're going to get out of the streets and get a little bloody when necessary. Every once in a while, you're going to get out of the streets and get a little bloody when necessary. Every once in a while, you're going to get out of the streets and get a little bloody when necessary.